Good afternoon. It is 5:01. Trustee Florina, I want to welcome everyone to our regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Regular meeting of trustees will be held today, Monday, June 22nd, beginning 5. It is in our administration office located here at North 23rd Street here in McAllen. At this time, at this meeting, there may be discussion action by the board on the items and subjects listed as follows. Items listed on this agenda may be taken in order other than as shown on this agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, items identified within the consent agenda will be acted at one time. First item is we're going to convene an open session. Second item, recess to closed session. The Board of Trustees may go into closed sessions pursuant to Section 551.01, 551.02, and 551.04 Texas Government Code to discuss the following. A, Human Resources recommendations for school year 2015-2016. B, Human Resources Employee Resignation for school year 2014-2015. C, School Improvement Facilitator for Memorial High School. D, Assistant Principal for Alonzo D. Middle School. E, Pending or potential litigation. And F, Possible real estate acquisition. However, before we go into closed session, I'm going to recess this meeting at 5:03. Good afternoon. At 5:45, we're going to reconvene in an open session of our regular meeting. Today, Monday, June 22nd, 2015. We are also on item number 2. We're going to recess a closed session to discuss the following items. Item A, Human Resource recommendations for school year 2015-2016. Item B, Human Resource Employee resignations for 2014-2015. Item C, School Improvement Facilitator for Memorial High School. Item D, Assistant Principal for Alonzo D. Middle School. Item E, Pending or potential litigation. And item F, Possible real estate acquisition. Ms. Flynn, at 5:43, we're going to recess to closed session.
I'm getting popcorn at the time.
Ms. Flynn, at 6:20, we're going to reconvene our regular meeting. We were in closed session. I'd like to welcome everyone in the audience who's joining us or who's here today and joining us over their computers and mobile devices. Welcome to our regular board meeting. We were in closed session. No action was taken. Please, we're on item number 4 of our agenda, the invocation. Please join me as Trustee Esparza leads us in invocation.
Please bow your heads. Dear God, we have come together in your name to work for the good of our schools. Stay with us with your invisible presence and pour your spirit upon us. Make us your gifts in a spirit of trust and guidance and a spirit of prudence and understanding, so that the children of our district may experience an abundance of learning, compassion, and peace. Let harmony reign among us, and let us keep our eyes ever fixed on you. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next item is our Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Sandoval, lead us.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to thee. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Oh, we had a little work on that.
Here, you want the book?
Yeah, I probably should have kept that book. I am so sorry to all our children and all our schools for messing up the Texas Pledge.
Sam Houston.
Got to go back to remedial class. So.
Mr. Florina, it is 6:23. I'm going to recess this regular board meeting. Reconvene our regular board meeting. We are on item number 6, public hearing to discuss the 2015-2016 budget and proposed tax rate. Our presenter is Ms. Connie Lopez, Assistant Superintendent for Business Operations. Ms. Lopez?
Good evening to all.
Good evening.
We do have the PowerPoint presentation that we will discuss here, and we also have handouts for anyone in the audience that may want a handout of our 15-16, at least a summary format of the budget. Cindy Richards, our CFO, has them available. We did publish the notice for the meeting on June 10th, so if Without further ado, I will go ahead and start with the public hearing. The public is allowed comments at any point. I suppose it doesn't have to be at the end of the presentation. We do have, of course, our Board of Trustees listed, our administrative staff listed. We do list the vision and the mission of McAllen ISD. The notice of public meeting to discuss the budget and proposed tax rate, again, it did appear in the Monitor June 10th. It's not very easy to see, but you can see some of the key information that the public should be informed about. So we do have there, in terms of the tax rate, we have still listed $1.04 for M&O purposes and $1, or I should say 11.5 cents for INS purposes for 15-16. Yeah, this is not all that great, but so you do see the notice and all the different figures listed there, and it also gives a previous year's tax rate compared to the new year's tax rate. The budget summary report, this is at the function level, and again, it's a comparison report between the actual budget and the proposed budget for 14-15 actual versus the 15-16 proposed budget. In terms of our fiscal year, it does begin July 1st and it does end June 30th. We do ask the board for approval, appropriations by function for accelerated instruction funds out of state comp, and this was a new requirement a couple of years back. So out of state comp, we will be using just over $376,000 for accelerated instruction. And that is listed there. The board again does approve the budget on a function level. And the funds that are impacted that the board does approve are the general fund, the debt service fund. If we had any capital projects fund, it would be listed there also. And then of course, all funds. The functions are listed on my far left. Key one, of course, is function 11 for instruction, and you see all the rest there listed. The total budget for the general fund as being proposed is just over $224 million, just under $10 million for debt service, for a total of just over $234 million. In terms of some of the financial data, we do have the financial growth comparison by revenue. We go back and compare to 06-07 all the way through 15-16. To note on 15-16 is, of course, we have not budgeted any actual ADA change. That would be the fourth column. We are just at 0%. Unfortunately, in 14-15, we lost just over 2% of our student ADA population. Tax rates are listed on the far right, M&O and INS purposes. This will be the 9th year at $1.04. And you see the INS tax rate listed. A decrease of a penny. We are hoping that will maintain, but depending on tax values and depending on some of the legislation in terms of our state funding for the decrease in the homestead exemption, we will inform the board if at any point that changes. If it does change, we would have to publish an additional or a new notice. But of course, M&O is at $1.04. This is the 2-year budget comparison of revenues by object code.
Connie, real quickly, going
Yes,
back
sir.
to that previous page.
Yes, sir.
On the ADA section, that I guess that second column,
Yes, sir.
where the original budgeted amount, the actual amount, and the change, and some of them were in the negative, very small amounts. Have we had to send money back because our estimates were higher?
We do not. The state actually, they'll grab the money back if they've overfunded us. So, and we always budget and we continue to look at ADA every 6 weeks, so we always know not to overspend. And
Okay.
Cindy will, and the board does approve the budget amendments once a month, and we try to bring the ones dealing with the 6-week information as timely as we can once a 6 weeks closes. So we're okay as far as that goes, sir.
We haven't had to send money back.
No, sir.
We've
And-
adjusted as it time over
Yes,
the year.
and they adjust accordingly too in terms of how they fund us.
Okay.
But we've never been in a situation where we have spent monies that we had not earned.
Okay.
So maybe is a better way to put it.
Okay.
And that 14-15, we did, of course, originally budgeted at 23,524, and we actually ended up at, well, at 22,830. We will adjust a little bit below that now that we have the 6 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Ms. Lopez, if I may. I know along the way the state has also changed the way we report ADA in terms of snapshots throughout the semesters, third periods, and how many times a month, et cetera. Can you very briefly go over that, if you can, if you may?
Well, what they do is, we do collect the data. We do have different PEEM submissions, but the summer one will be the one that addresses the ADA. We have to submit our budgeted information, and then we have to submit our audited information. Those are on the financial side, but they're more with the actual general ledger and so forth. But as far as the student side, they actually do just pick them up at the end of the year. And what we do, Mr. Villan, it may be what you're referring to, is we do give them an estimate of how many students we anticipate having so that they have a gauge of how much they may end up having to fund us for. But that is even, 2 years before the biennium, or at least a year before the next biennium.
But very early on, I know they used to say, give us an estimate of how many kids were in school on this particular day. They've increased the number of days that they require us to send them populations. And they're more specific as to the number of students in desks at that particular time of the day, of the month, and the period. I mean, I guess they've become much more accurate at counting people in desks than they were before.
We do have the snapshot date that's always the last Friday in October, and so they use that for different purposes. Now, the fact that the district, I'm sure before the 08-09 year, I don't recall what the last year was, that they were a migrant district, then the state was looking at every single day, every 6 weeks. And actually, they were looking at every day, but they were only using for funding purposes the best 4 of the 6 weeks. And now they use every single day.
I guess that was my question.
And we
so.
just report it, at one time, but still it's looking at every single day.
When we
Yes, sir.
lost the migrant designation, migrant district designation because of the 5%, then it's no longer your best for 6 weeks. It's every 6 weeks. So all 6 weeks are reported. All six weeks are reported.
And that took place 08-09?
It was before I arrived. Do you remember the last migrant
It
year?
was more recent than that.
I know 09-10, we were already six weeks.
Yeah, by we were
Doing
below
that.
the 5% mark.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It probably happened, I would say, a year or two before that. So it had to have happened 06, 07, 07, 08, right around there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
The mic stand, can we get, thanks.
We're going to save it for the public hearing
Public hearing.
comments.
Sorry.
Any other questions from the board?
And we do have just a little more of the presentation.
absolutely, Ms. Lopez.
Okay. 2-year budget comparison of revenues. The 5,700s are the local revenues, and they're just over 34%. The state revenues just over 57%, and the federal revenues just over 8%. The federal revenues that we are referring to here are the ones for the child nutrition program, not the others that you will see listed here in a little bit. And the comparisons between the 2 years, as you can see on the percentage basis especially, are very, very comparable. In terms of appropriations, we list here all of the funds, the proposed 15-16 budget versus 14-15 budget. So you see the difference there. And 2-year budget comparison of appropriations by object code. This is the object code is by payroll costs or by professional and contracted services, supplies and materials, other operating costs, debt service, and capital projects. Percent of total in terms of payroll costs, we are going from approximately 77% to just over 78%. And in terms of the function code, we do try to summarize the 10s, the 20s, and the 30s on this report because there are multiple functions listed in these groups. 2-year budget comparison, again by function, just a percentage in terms of the pie chart, and the appropriations by function, the proposed for 15-16 versus the original for 14-15, and the difference noted there. These are the special and proprietary funds that the board does not technically approve, by function. They are what we tend to refer to more as the federal funds. And so you will see, for instance, Title I regular, which is our fund number 211, does have a decrease of just over $500,000. So some of these programs are having to make adjustments due to federal type funding that is decreasing and so forth.
The Texas Valley one, what is that one? It's
Texas Valley, sir.
280? See it up there, number 280?
Yes, I do see it, sir.
Has a decrease over $500,000, is that right?
80, I believe, is our PEP grant. What we currently have is a PEP grant,
Oh,
and it's closing at the end of this
Finally.
year. Mhm.
and some of these do not reflect maximum entitlement type numbers, so they do adjust depending on what rolls forward from one year to the next.
And the 410, that one went over,
That is actually our instructional materials allotment. This is the known number that we knew as of this time, just over 3 million. We are hoping to actually receive more than that, but the state was wrapping up some of the funding. So we already know that sometime in August or September, we will bring a budget amendment to the board to adjust for the final state revenue calculations.
so decrease or increase, you're saying?
It possibly is still a decrease. But it may not be as high as that 760, it may be closer to 300,000. But we are waiting for that.
So we would assume that the 461 is the same as well, right? The campus activity fund?
Actually, sir, the campus activity funds, those really are dollars that the campus generates through their fundraising. And the campus activity funds do include any type of fundraising throughout, actually, the elementaries and the middle schools and the high schools. It's
So we've
across
seen
the
a
board.
decline of 122,000?
Yes, sir, in terms of what budgets the campuses have sent in so far.
We assume that's because of our candy sales?
It could be, cookie dough, candy sales,
Trying
possibly.
to make a point.
Yeah.
I love candy.
It's for another time, Trustee Suarez.
The second page of this, special and proprietary funds, do list our Project Safe and Secure for the campuses that have after-school type programs. And of course, our print shop is listed there also. So the total for these is just under 30 million in terms of all of these fund types. This is a comparison of tax data. And 1516, of course, these numbers in terms of the tax assessment before freeze and the freeze adjusted taxable, we know those numbers will be changing because we don't have the numbers or including, I should say, the additional $10,000 of homestead. So these numbers will definitely be lower. Could impact our local collections to the tune of $2 million we're estimating, which we should see on the state side.
The homestead exemption went from 10,000 to 20,000?
It went from 15 to 25, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And they will, of course, adjust all the over 65 folks or disabled folks also. And of course, the tax rates are listed there. And the debt service requirements are listed there too for the board's review. This is a property tax rate history. So of course, we do start with 2000, 2001, and of course our M&O tax rate at that point was $1.50, 8 cents on INS, and then you can compare it to where we're at right now, or what we are proposing. This evening, we are asking the board for approval for the budget, but we will not ask the board for approval for the tax rate until probably the second meeting in August. But we will work also with the appraisal district and whatever other adjustments we may need to make. Every penny that we collect in terms of taxes generates approximately $622,000. So that's listed there for the board's review also, and of course for our community. Not used to talking to our public often, so in terms of in the audience. There is opportunity, of course, for public comments, so, and we would
Carmen,
obviously like
before
to.
we go to that real quick.
Yes, sir.
On page 13, sorry, Ito, we saw also that there was a cut for special education. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Just over, it looks like 65,000. Yes, sir.
$65,321.
Mhm. And this is one that the state monitors very closely, special ed monies and how we are spending them. We are subject to maintenance of effort. So what they do is they verify that what we spent what we are spending this year, next year we need to spend at least that amount, be it a minimum. There's exceptions for different happenings, but they do monitor, they don't like lots of changes to special ed expenditures or appropriations.
But why the 65,000? Why is such a big cut?
This one is definitely, sir, the 173 is definitely tied to student counts, and special ed, the state program is one of those that has a lot of different weights within special ed, depending on how the child is coded. So it could just be that we had less of a certain coded kids, yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, so thank you, Ms. Lopez. I'm going to close this portion, and I'm going to open our public meeting to the public. So, Ms. Fuenina, at 6:43, I'm going to recess our regular meeting.
You don't need to recess.
Not a separate
You just
meeting.
need to open the public.
Okay. I'll resend that statement. Ms. Fuenina, at 6:43, I'm going to open our public hearing to discuss the 2015-16 budget and proposed tax rate. At this time, I'd like to invite anybody from the audience to come and share their comments with us concerning the budget. No takers? Going once? Okay, going twice? We'll close this meeting.
Close
Ms.
the public hearing.
I'm sorry, close the public hearing,
Close the
right?
public hearing.
At 6, Mr. Fuenina.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good job, Mr.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. Thank you to the board and to staff, everybody that, Dr. Ponce, of course, and staff that helps with the budget process.
Moving on to item number 7, is superintendent's reports. Dr. Ponce, the summer feeding program.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Tonight we'll talk about the summer food program. We're queuing up a video.
I apologize. I need to give him time to switch, so jumped the gun a little.
Our summer food program service has begun with big success in the neighborhoods across the city. The program is actually called Seamless Summer, but it's been dubbed Meals on Wheels by the local media, especially after several local districts have now followed our lead. We are serving children free meals citywide Monday through Friday throughout the summer. In fact, our program has more than doubled since we began 2 years ago. In 2013, we served at 33 sites. In 2014, that grew to 63 sites. Today, we're serving children at 78 sites. This program has 2 of our departments, our food services and our transportation departments, working together to travel throughout our neighborhoods to provide these free, nutritious meals twice a day to our children. Any child age 18 and under can receive meals. Our sites include some of our schools, the Boys and Girls Clubs, park and rec sites, parochial schools, community centers, and other locations. The buses even stop in neighborhoods, and children can hop right on and eat a meal on the bus. We are also extending the program to allow children more access to meals throughout the summer and more meal options to include breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinners. The meals provided jumped from 84,000 in 2013 to 221,561 meals in 2014. This year, the program has begun on June 1st, and it will continue through August 14th. This summer, the 91,651 meals have been provided. That's how many meals have been provided to date, as I mentioned earlier. A big kudos to food services and the community in general, McAllen community coming together, and also transportation. Everyone's been very open-minded and has picked up the steam and knows and knowing and connecting to all the places that we can serve children throughout the summer. And as you see, it's a big success, and looking forward to that program growing even more. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any comments? I just want to say, Dr. Ponce, it's a great program. I thought before in the past that it was limited to only certain kids, but it's open to anybody. Also, I know you were asked today to look at another site by our mayor, and I know we're going to look at that just to expand on this program, but it's a good program, so thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to item 9, our agenda. It's items in closed session. During closed session, no action was taken. We're on item A. At this point, I'm going to exclude myself and turn over the meeting to Trustee Espasa for,
Want to go with 8 or 9?
Item 8.
oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, 8 usually comes before 9.
The A&M education is showing, Trustee Suarez. We're going on item number 8, which is district reports, report regarding the monthly financial investment report for May 2015, and our presenter is Ms. Lopez. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. The first report I'm going to go over is the budget to revenues, expenditures, and encumbrances, and it is for the month of May. If you look at column D, the year-to-date actual, just over $172 million received, expended just over $195 million. And we also have the difference in terms of what we still, column E, the difference in terms of what we still expect to receive from different revenue sources versus expend. So we have that first report there listed for the board's review. The monthly investment report does show that we had, as of May 31st, again, ending book and market value just over $100 million. We have the change in market value that's listed is for actual expenditures that were paid out, just under $7.9 million. And we do have, on page 15 of the board's packet, we do have the investments listed there in terms of where the investments are held and that add up in to that $100 million in market value. So you have Bank of New York Mellon, Federal Agency Coupon Securities, Texpool, Lone Star, BBVA Compass, both just bank account and MMA money market accounts, they're listed. The rest just gives the board different types of reports in terms of how the money is held and where the investment is held. So that pretty much completes the monthly financial and investment report.
Thank you.
There hasn't been any change in rates, right? Pretty much.
No, sir, actually, and we were really hoping it was going to be September of 2015. Last I heard, it could be just one rate change in 2015, and they may push it back to December. So really, we haven't seen much in terms of even a quarter or any type of basis.
Any other comments, questions? Podium, where?
Everything's good.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to item 9, actions in closed session. We're on actions A, and I'm going to turn over to Trustee Espasa.
Item 9A, approval of human resource recommendations for school year 2015-2016. Mrs.
That's me, sir.
Ms.
Yes,
Lopez.
sir. Yes, sir. We did have several listings for elementary and for secondary and other administrative type listings. So it was pretty extensive. So we have a lot of hires for 15-16.
I move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Vela to approve, second by Mr. Suarez. Any other? Yes, I didn't know who was it. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Item 9B, human resources, oh, you're coming back. Human resources employee resignations for school year 2014-2015. Mrs. Lopez, and this is up for, just for information purposes?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Okay. Moving on to item C, approval school improvement facilitator for Memorial High School. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. The recommendation is Angela M. Gonzalez.
Questions, comments from the board? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
A motion by Trustee Vela. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Espasa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item D, approval of assistant principal for Alonso D. De Leon Middle School. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. The recommendation is Rocio D. Nava.
Okay. Do I have a motion from the board?
So moved.
I have a motion by trustee Ball. Do I have a second by trustee Florina?
Second.
I do. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you.
Item E, pending or potential litigation?
No action needed at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crane. And no action on item F?
That is correct.
Okay. We're moving on. I excuse myself. I had a conflict of interest on item A. My wife was being in that process. Okay, moving on to item 10, consent agenda item. We're going to act all at once unless the board member wants to pull an item. Any board member want to pull an item off the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve items 10A through 10N on the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Vella to approve the consent agenda from items A through N, and we have a second by trustee Ball. We have previously discussed these items. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Aye. We have a motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to item 11, items pulled for separate votes. Item A under 11 is approval of McAllen Independent School District May budget amendment for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014, ending June 30th, 2015. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. We do have, I did describe some of these items 2 weeks ago. We do have a May amendment for the general fund and for the debt service fund, and it is there listed by functions for the board's approval.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Vella, second by trustee Sandivad. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 12, 12A, approval of subdivision plot at McAllen ISD, middle school subdivision. Dr. Barrera?
Yes, sir, and good evening. Michael E. Fossum Middle School is built on approximately 23 acres of land and was opened in the fall of 2008. The legal description is 23.338 acres tract of land, more or less, out of the tract of land consisting of 32 acres, more or less being out of the farming or the forming part of Lot 57 of La Lomita Irrigation and Construction Company subdivision in Hidalgo County, Texas. A plat identifies the boundaries, the easements, the flood zones, setbacks, and legal descriptions for a price of the property. On July 31st, 2014, the district entered into an agreement with Hinojosa Engineering to provide professional services for the subdivision plat and easements for the property associated with Michael Fossum School. This plat requires approval by the district. A little bit of background here. This is a housekeeping chore that should have been completed as the project evolves. We found that this plat and a few others, along with Pettis and Sanchez and maybe even Hendricks, were submitted to the city for approval back then, but were somehow not completed. The plat that we bring you this morning or this evening was compiled back in February of 2006. Normally, this plat or a plat of any kind is secured and on file with the city before a construction project may begin. The plat must be certified as per the standard by all entities that have an interest in this property. In this case, the Hidalgo County Drainage District, as well as the City of McAllen, are the entities that are involved here. That being the case, then this has got to be also approved by us and then taken to those entities so that they may also approve, and then we may register the plat with the city. In our case, back then, the city reviewed our data and allowed us to proceed. It wasn't until we needed the permits to install our new marquees that we discovered that the plats were not signed. So for that reason, as it stands, we're requesting approval of the plats as they are presented and as they are certified by Hinojosa Engineer, who's a registered professional engineer, and Jorge Rodriguez, which is a registered professional land surveyor. Again, we're requesting approval this evening for the approval of the plat so that we can also move forward and have the plats registered in with the city.
Dr. Barrera, on the engineering, how long do we have to get it approved? I mean, it didn't expire or anything, right? But we don't have to get it re-engineered or anything like that? Or
We-
the
we-
surveyed or anything?
We do not have to get it resurveyed. We do need to get it entered in with the city as far as the plat goes.
Any other questions, comments?
This is a plat of the whole property that's there, right?
Correct. This,
The soccer field's on the south side of, oh, this is Fossum.
This Fossum.
I was thinking something else. Okay.
But
there
this
is
includes the property, that vacant lot where that's still ours, where the kids walk through.
yes, sir, that's right. Combined acreage is 32. The property, the school proper sits on about 25 acres there. 23 acres is where it sits. There's a flood area, retaining
Right.
area, just to the north of that, and then just to the north of that is the housing development.
Right. Questions, comments?
Are we going to have any sanctions or penalties for filing this late?
No, none that we're aware of. When we first brought this to them, they said, we met with them to let them know this is what we found, and they said, go ahead and get it done. We did not talk about any kind of penalties or sanctions of any kind.
And that's by who are you talking about, the city or with
The
county,
city.
the state?
The city.
In the future, how do we prevent this from happening again?
In the future, what we do is when we write the contract for the engineers to get this done, this will be part of the requirements and it'll be spec'd out, so this won't happen again.
If there's any penalties, I think the previous board members need to pay for that. That'd be Mr. Vela and myself.
Lee's Pharmacy.
Lee's Pharmacy.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion by any board member?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by trustee Vela,
Second.
second by trustee Ball. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Badea.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Moving on to item B under 12, approval of the interlocal agreement between the City of McAllen and McAllen Independent School District, James Nicky Roll Auditorium Facility. Dr. Badea?
Yes, sir, and I'd like to request that that we take no action this evening regarding this item. We've worked very hard, kind of a quick update to where we are in this particular interlocal agreement. We were after a more formal update in the arrangement that we currently have with the city in terms of when it can be used and who's it used by and who does what and the particulars there. We worked with Mr. Crane and also the city attorney to compile a MOU. At the time of this writing, we had it pretty well done, but there are a couple of things that we want to make sure we get right. And for those reasons, I'd just like to table it, and then we'll go ahead and bring it at our next board meeting. I would like to add also that we have, when we first learned about this, so that we wouldn't interrupt service of any kind, we went and did a temporary or an interim agreement that has been signed by Dr. Ponce and also the city manager, so that we would have that services would not be interrupted.
Do any questions, comments from the board? I just have one. We have a board meeting on Thursday. Are you trying to bring it by then, or were Oh, that's correct. So on this agreement that we signed, is there a specific time period on that, or?
The interim, there is no
interim.
specific time on that. We're just working to make sure we get it done quickly.
Okay,
And we'll bring this back to you in August.
okay. No actions needed on this. Before I move on, any questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Dr. Badea.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to item C, discussion and possible approval regarding 260 and 242 day non-exempt auxiliary employees. Dr. Badea?
Yes, sir. I'm going to switch over here for just a minute and pull up a slide that will help us. Let me see here. Okay, this is a discussion and possible approval regarding the 260 and 240-day non-exempt auxiliary employees. Since the 2005, I'm seeing double here. So, since the 2005 and 2006 school year, the McAllen Independent School District has moved away from utilizing a 260-day work schedule for non-exempt auxiliary employees. New non-exempt auxiliary hires use a 242-day work schedule. The options for consideration are as follows. that there's that all 260-day employees be moved to 242-day work schedules without a change in their current pay. After this change, all 242 staff pay will be reviewed for equity pay purposes, and if need be, an hourly pay adjustments would be added. Then there's another option, which is B, and that's that all 242-day employees be moved to a 260-day work schedule. This is it runs the other way. The increase in days would result in 2 days, 2 work days, and 10 vacation days, and the 6 holidays. Now, in both of these scenarios, it is recommended that the current pay period also be moved from a biweekly to a monthly pay period. The monthly pay period ensures a consistent pay amount each month. So under administrative facts and analysis, under the A part, it's the estimated cost for that to go from a 260 to 242 would cost the district about $218,000, and it only takes into account, and I must clarify that it would only take into account our FM&O staff, not our other departments. Under B, where the 242-day employees moved to 260 days, it would cost an estimated amount of $284,000, and again, this only takes into account our FM&O staff. We put into place here, looking at it, how would we transition this into the school year? We wanted to give a lot of lead time to make adjustments as we need to, and it was recommended that it would take place July 1 for 2016. So that given the case, what we have here is a recommendation, administration's recommendation option A, that the current pay period move to a monthly pay period as well, effective July the 1st, 2016. Now, in my slide here, I summarized it at the very top there. This is option A, move 260 to 242 days. Looking at the 2 bar charts there, we're looking at 18 days off, 260. If we went the other way, it would also work with 18 days off as well. We moved to 260-day employees on a 242-day calendar, 260 compressed to 242. The decrease in days would result in 18 non-work days. And then the pay would remain the same for all employees. On the 242 side, staff's pay would be reviewed for equity pay purposes, and if needed, hourly pay adjustments would be made.
Maybe somebody doesn't like your comments.
Came from the back of the room.
And so I put those up there, and then for option B, this was if we moved to 242s to a 260-day calendar. This is going the other way there. What we gain here, 242s, actually it becomes 244 days with gaining 2 work days with 10 vacation days and 6 holidays. 260 staff works 244 days, again, and 10 vacation, your 6 holidays. We moved 242 employees to a 260 calendar. The increase in days would result in 2 more work days, 10 vacation days, 6 holidays, and a pay increase for those 18 days. I'm also thinking, or as we put this into play, it takes into account, we're thinking we would want to move to a monthly pay period. I've been working with Mrs. Lopez about how we could bridge that, or some opportunities there to do that. The recommendation is for next year, but there are some options to think about as well. I have included in your packet some pay schedules, what the increases would look like if it were to go from a 242 to a 260, or from a 260 press to a 240. There is an increase in the hourly rate of about 96 cents. And it also includes various scenarios with different years of experience, so that you get a real good picture there. It's up for discussion. It's possible approval, and so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so I'm a 260 employee. I make $40,000 a year. my average. It now goes to 242. I work less days but get the same amount of money.
That's right.
Okay, so I want to get that straight. I'm 260. I get paid a certain amount of money. I'm gonna now be 242. I'm getting the same amount of money I was getting when I was 260. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay. In addition to that, I get an additional 5 days or 6 days, right? Just want to make sure I got this right.
Yes. Let me back this one. It's this one here.
So we're on. We're good with that, right?
You're correct. Just to reinforce, you
I
go
get
from
18 days.
260 to
And then
242.
the
Same.
the additional is that now instead of getting paid bi-weekly, I get paid once a month.
Yes, sir.
So what I get paid in February and March, where I'm working the more days, it's my paycheck will be the same in June and July when I'm working less hours and less days.
What typically happens around spring break, if they're not working, their check is short, and the same thing happens around Christmas. And by going to a monthly payment, it's the same. It's very consistent. You get the same amount for 12 pay periods.
Okay, so here's $1 million question.
Okay.
If it's gauged on an hourly rate, how can my pay always be the same?
You take that, you take that annualized amount and you're dividing it now. Instead of by the 260 days divided by 8 hours, you're dividing 242 days divided by 8 hours. So annualized,
You're making a lot more money.
well, annualized, you're making the exact same dollar amount. And that may be
Right, annually, but per day, I'm worth more money now.
per day, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your hourly rate
And
will
that's,
go.
the examples start on 244 of the board's packet, because that, you know, on the first example, and these are real staff members without names. You're going from 260 work days to 242. Their hourly rate's going from 1284 to 1380. So where there is an additional cost is when and if staff works overtime, because overtime will be calculated on the higher hourly rate.
So if I work overtime, just clarifying this, now my overtime rate is higher than it was when I was a 260 employee.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Because your hourly rate is
And
increased.
our reason for doing this is so that we're consistent across the entire district.
Correct, sir.
Everybody's on the same playing field.
Yes, sir.
And to eliminate the peaks and valleys in the pay periods during the spring break and Christmas periods of the year.
I mentioned in my presentation that this would be a consistent pay periods, but also the other departments. This is specific to FM&O. So FM&O has the bulk of them. We have about 117 employees that are on 260. But this is also takes, when we go to a 242, the entire district is pretty much on 242.
Okay. And if this were to be approved tonight, that means that this is effective this year,
No.
Actually, sir,
July
next-
2016.
along with their monthly pay schedule.
Correct.
Correct.
Wanted to
You
make sure
said-
I had it right.
You said July 2016, right? So you're talking about starting the
year.
cycle next year, right?
That's correct.
And the reason being is that we know going from the bi-monthly to the monthly may make some adjustment. We wanted plenty of time, one, to communicate and have all the questions being able to ask, and two, to prepare to make the shift from the bi-monthly to the monthly. And we also needed time because in there, Connie had talked to us about moving the pay period up also, so that the first 3 pay periods, I think. And you stair step it down to that July, August. By September, you're back to everybody being on the same.
Plus, we're gonna have to do some adjustments too, and because there's less days that these individuals are gonna work. So there's gonna be some scheduling, areas that we need to work with, right?
Actually, it's two, the days difference was the,
Well, they're actually, the work days are pretty much
That's-
the
yeah.
same. Yeah, the work days.
I think there's a 2-day difference in there, actually, because if you tie in now the next item, well, let's talk in the next item. Next item that takes the 10, so the next item, I think we're talking the next item that would take it from 5 to 10, plus the 8, so there's not much of a difference going into next year. That was the other reason, too, in the
2 days.
conversation we were having with Mr. Salivar, about bridging to next year to allow plenty of time would be the 10-day, going from 5 to 10, and then the the monthly pay period needed some time for adjustment.
Sorry, the purpose is so that they get a check year-round, right?
Correct?
Basically the same amount, because they're working the same, but they're hourly, so if they miss, if they're not working, then their check would be adjusted each month anyway, though, right? I mean, if it's not a sick leave, or they're out of sick leave days, then they're losing.
It would be, sir, and it's no different than what we do right now, like with
Right.
all the instructional aides, they're hourly, or even secretaries, they're hourly staff, and we just take their salary and divide it by 1/12. So it would be the same process for our auxiliary staff.
But if they miss and they don't have accumulated sick leave days or vacation days, they get docked. for
Yes,
that,
sir.
too.
Their monthly pay for that month gets adjusted downward. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Looking on page 244, and I wish we could put that up there, because this one box going back and forth kind of summarizes a lot, but I want to make sure I'm clear.
Mr. Saldivar, again, what page?
244, I believe. Of the packet, of the board packet. And the heading is it's actually the chart, McAllen ISD biweekly and hourly comparison. Because, you did a great job of breaking it down for us, so I kind of wanted to use those. Because it has a real nice arrow with a lot of data underneath that kind of gives us various scenarios, but you summarized it well between a biweekly and a monthly calculation.
We don't have that right to show.
I don't have that
All right.
slide.
Can you get it
I
off
can
one of
pull
our
it.
iPads? Can we plug it into the output that you have for the?
What I'm trying to do is walk through a 260 getting 242.
No.
Actually make-
Well, we're
just
not
gonna
allowed
pull that
to,
in?
it won't work,
This gives
Mr.
us
Florina,
actual figures.
Trustee Florina.
We need the bigger.
'cause right now, I don't know if it is or isn't.
Can you email it to him?
No, we'll get it. Going in.
Discussing.
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm understanding.
Good looking kid on the website.
That's what they're saying. I want to make sure this is really what it's saying. It seems a little confusing. Yeah. Yeah.
What is it, 12? It's 12.
Where's a teacher with a chalkboard when you need one?
Comparison.
Where did I go? That, if you can make that
that-
bigger, yes, that's the page I'm referring to.
This years of experience is 41, or did you
If
want
you
to
can-
see the 13?
I want to see those two boxes with the arrows going back and
Years
forth.
experience 41.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I don't know if you can get it to that point.
bigger.
Move it
Make
over.
it bigger so you can see the box, and then we can move it back and forth. A little bit more, a little bit more. A little bit more, almost there. That could work. But we got to be able to move it sideways in a sec. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, if you can make it a little bit bigger, if not, that's okay. And we'll just move it sideways to see what the next box looks like. Yeah, there you go, that's good. So as an example here, we have a custodian that's currently working 260 days, getting paid for 260 days. Their years of experience, according to this chart, is 41 years with the district, right?
Right.
And then the hourly rate, it was $12.84, and I guess this is before the dollar increase, or, okay.
It was. This was the data from May, before the raises.
Very good. And so that means their annualized salary, if you take their annualized salary and divide it up, well, before you get there, it's $26,716.18. Okay? And then if you slide it over and look at the arrow, we're now going to be asking these employees, to work 242 days. Again, 41 years of experience, but the rate, because we made an adjustment starting July 1 of 2015 for the next year of $1, right? So now that, and they work an 8-hour day, so their salary is still $26,716.80, based on this example. Okay. So, and if you go through all of this chart, basically what we're telling our employees in the FMO is that you're going to be paid as if you work 260 days, but really you're only going to be working 242, because we're leaving the salary of a 260, just compressing it down to 242, in essence. Is that correct?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
misunderstanding? All right, thank you. Now, the next element that's a key element is the moving from a biweekly to a monthly, and then taking that 26,000 for this example and dividing it by 12. So it's one check a month, right? And the plan is what, the first Friday of the month, or do we have a clue how that might work?
Well, they will run with the monthly staff. So monthly staff gets paid the 25th, and what Dr. Ponce had mentioned earlier is possibly in July, we would move it up 3 to 5 days, then move it up 3 days, and then until we get to the 25th.
Okay.
You know, we have to do that in November and December for other staff because of vacation time.
Okay. Well, the other element, that, and I appreciate staff working on this in such a very quick pace, and Dr. Ponce, thank you for listening to our concerns and trying to come up with a remedy. But why is the difference of 218 and 218,000 difference, and if we went with B, the 284? Is it, if we were to go with B, they'd be working the 260 days then, right? Not the 242.
Right. Well, you would be taking all the current 242s and making them 260. So in essence, you would be providing pay for 18 days. And the reason, I'm sure in 0506 or before that, the district determined the 242 was a good amount of work days for the workload. And it also helped everybody stay on the same basis because besides this group, other groups do not get paid vacation.
So really, A and B, the difference is that you're trying to equalize the 242s to a 260 to then make them work the 242.
Right, to take positions, sir, that and have them on the same work days.
Yeah, and so therefore, it's a $66,000 a year increase with the B column, if we went the B column route, to equalize the current 242s at a 260 salary, and then make everybody work the 242. As I understand it, that's the difference between the two.
Between the A and the B option, yes.
Okay. The A is taking where everybody is right now and just moving the 242 with the salary, annualize it, and that's pretty much it. With the 260s really coming down to 242. 242, no equity, they just continue working at 242. Aside from the $1 increase per hourly rate.
There would be, if need be, we would look into the equity purposes of what the 242 are paid currently to make sure that rounds itself out as well.
Because that's where I'm getting at with my
Right.
concern, because they may be a little bit short.
There may be a little bit short.
Yeah.
I-
Okay.
I have a question. Dr. Has this ever, I think I know the answer, but I just want to make sure. Has this been explained to staff what we're thinking of doing, to where they would at least have a better understanding?
There have been talks for some time about how to get at this the best way. In fact, we had weighed 260, 242s back and forth to see how we could accomplish that. In fact, we did go ahead and build into the next budget item, which is an adjustment to policy.
No, I understand that,
DED.
but has this been explained to the staff? I mean, I know it's
No.
been explained to us, but.
In its entirety, not this latest version, has not. We have had talks prior, but not to this degree.
That was the other reason for the year, to get a chance to go and talk about what it meant to They have time to actually talk through, walk each one through.
Because I'm actually thinking, I'm the opposite. If this is a good deal, why not do it this year if it's less days for them? So that was going to be my question. Trustees Suarez has asked, see what the feedback was. Because the other option we have, and just me thinking, we have a meeting on Thursday. We can take, oh, that's right.
Well, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
That's my thought. I mean, as to why we wait. I think we can acclimate over a period of a transition of maybe 90 days. And I would also suggest, and I think this is a conversation, and I appreciate the time. You and I spent a lot of time talking about this over the last 10 days. One of our 3 goals is people development. And it may behoove us to leverage that 3rd goal that we have as a district of, student achievement, people development, and the other one is community engagement. But the people development piece is to partner with a agency that can bring in and talk about finances, personal finances, and maybe coupling the staff with the classes on personal finance and us doing the same. I think we could easily acclimate to this within 90 days, and I think it would be fair and reasonable. And as you mentioned earlier, as welcome, maybe the first month we leave it as biweekly. The second month, we move it a week. So it's still biweekly, but it's a week difference. And maybe the third, you move to the monthly. And during that time, you're having people development classes, opportunity for staff to learn personal finance. So how do you budget for a month? They learn a lot. It helps their family. It helps the community. I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Trustee Sandoval, is this your committee, or whose committee would this fall under?
Actually, it wouldn't fall on my committee per se because it's dealing with business operations.
Okay,
But it started in ours because my committee is, Mr. Velez and I is district facilities. And those folks are involved in those district facilities.
Are any other comments, questions? I'm just trying to get a feel for what the board wants to do.
Connie, if we were to want to implement this year, can you make that happen? Is 90 days, as Mr. Saldivar said, enough time? I'd like to see it soon, as he said, maybe this year, but I also don't want to put a strain on y'all that can't be done.
Right. We could see how it's more of the concern for the staff in terms of can they go, at what point can they go a whole month without, and that was part of the main reasoning for waiting a year, was to give them enough notice so that if they've got payments scheduled, if they don't have any type of biweekly in their bank before they get their next biweekly, if they literally are waiting on their paycheck to be able to pay their expenses. That was the bigger concern. I don't know, we could obviously work with Dr. Barrera and even Mr. Hitchcock and find out, how the staff would react. 3 months may not be enough. 6 months.
It's a pretty difficult transition when you go from getting a biweekly to once a month. That's
right.
It's pretty harrowing.
We've actually, we've actually lost some, the staff that we hire hourly, we've actually lost a few staff because they can't transition to the monthly. They need a job that pays them biweekly. So that was more of the reasoning for the year. Okay. But could we do it in 6 months administratively? I believe so. It's also the impact on the staff.
Well, and excuse me,
Yes,
I see some staff here, I'm assuming from FMO, and I don't know if it hasn't all been explained to them. I'd like to get some input, not today, but over time to see how they feel about it. Obviously, it sounds like a benefit to them, but there are some questions there that I'm sure they may have. And rather than rushing into this, I think, it sounds like it's going to benefit them. But, I'd like it clear to them, maybe they may not want it. It's something that'll benefit them, but, I think it needs to be explained to them.
Right.
I hadn't thought about what you had said about the issue going from 2 weeks to a month.
Right.
That's, for most people, myself included, that's going to be a pretty big ding on your bank account. So,
What I'm hearing from this board is that we would like to probably table this matter.
Well, if I could, before we do
yes,
that.
Absolutely.
There's really 2 components here, and they're not tied together necessarily. Okay. I suggest we go with a decision to move the staff from a 260, 242, and stabilize that. Still be biweekly. There's nothing wrong with that. But we've already made that decision, and I say we do it this year. So going into 2015, 2016, the staff will begin to work at 242. Now, we have a year to make the decision of how we're going to now implement the second component, which would be
The
going to a
transition,
monthly.
bi-weekly.
Exactly. So again, it addresses all our concerns. We're not rushing staff, and we get the input, as Mr. Esparza mentioned, and of course, Mr. Ball was also concerned about rushing that. That's not tied into this as a key element. The element is, do we move staff to the 242, paying them off the 260? And I suggest we can move on that at this time.
I just think they may have some questions on that too, because you're, well, I mean, I would think, yeah, it's great. I'm not gonna have to work 260. I'm only working 250, 242, and it's, you're telling me I'm gonna make the same or more money, but I'm sure there's some that may have some questions saying, I'm working less days. There's no way I can make the same money. You know, I mean, it's there, and I agree. I mean, it's, that's what we're proposing. But I'm sure they have questions. I don't know.
And I spoke to a few, and I think their more questions were about when to transition to pay. I think they were okay with going to the 242. I don't know if anybody else shares the same, or have heard the same feedback.
That's exactly what I've heard. Simply put, you're getting paid in this scenario, but you're working 242 instead of 260 days.
You're working less, making more.
Exactly. And everyone I've talked to and I walk them through,
Or
remember,
the same.
you're paying you 260, but you're working 242.
Right. Mr. Crane, could we, if we were to act on Trustee Saldívar's amended motion, could we do that?
You can do that. The only concern I might have is that any concern to the business department.
Actually, can you do a control minus? This is where the impact will be felt. Do control minus.
When is our next meeting scheduled?
Okay, then it gets a little too small. Go to the, okay, all right.
Too big?
No, that's good. If you would go to the left for me.
To meet Barrera to have it told them face-to-face.
As long as staff, okay, if you look at, this is the 260 scenario, and you see the biweekly column. So it starts with 411, and then there's a lot of biweeklies with 1027. What you see in the work days is how many days are being paid. The 4, the 10s, 9, 10, 11, 10, 9. Pretty stable except for that 4. Now, Mike, if you'll please move over.
To the right?
Yes, please. On this scenario, this is the 242 scenario, same form. And so now you see work days 10, you see lots of those. So, and then you see 9, 10, 8, 4, and then you'll see a 5. Those will be the pay periods that staff will just have to adjust for, because it will be a decrease in their biweekly. But that they have time to do that, yes, they do. But that's where the differences are. Because you're, in one scenario, you're paying them for 260, divided as equally as you can for 26 pay periods, versus 242 over 26 pay periods. So there, there will be some feeling of difference in pay in some of those scenarios.
But again, the bottom line, the recommendation from the administration is staff would work 242 but get paid for 260. That's the key here. The other is a benefit really for the administration on administering that pay. Instead of twice a month, it's 12 times a year. And so there's a cost benefit there, plus the fact that it's cumulative of 30 days worth of income where you can move around days worked or not worked, which is what you're referring to, is how you make up and assure the staff gets the full month's salary 12 months a year, which is a component we can ease into.
Do you have any questions, comments?
That's my motion, Mr. President, that we move to go forward to go with the Plan A, but not incorporate the monthly aspect of it at this time.
We have a motion. Just before I ask for a second, well, actually, I'll ask for a second. We have a motion.
And this is for 2000,
This would be July 1st, 2015.
for this
Yes,
month.
because it'll be played out over the entire year. That's our fiscal cycle.
they're still gonna get paid what, trustee Sandoval is saying, they still get paid every 2 weeks.
The only thing is, instead of working, you get the same amount of money working 242 instead of 260.
We're addressing A of the item only.
And then we'll ask the administration, if I understand, to look at,
How they're gonna execute and plan over the next year, the second component, which is moving, as Dr. Ponce and Dr. Barrera and Ms. Lopez have pointed out, is moving staff within the next year to a monthly income instead of a bi-monthly.
I'll second the motion.
It's a
Any-
good deal.
any other comments, questions?
When is our next meeting scheduled for, that we could,
Not till August.
and would it be too late to do anything by August, do you think?
Yes, sir, ideally, we should, their calendar does start July 1st.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the other one.
Dr. Ponce, what are your thoughts on, I mean,
No, that's what we had been working towards, any of those combinations. We were just trying to make sure there was enough transition time. That was the bigger concern after we finally had come down to, one was transition time, and two, as to your question, was to be able to have that conversation about what it meant and be clear to everyone, so that everyone would have a good idea. So we had, like I said, we had been kicking this around for many budget cycles, and now we're finally able to put it together in a way that made sense for everybody. And that's what, that last time we had the conversation was about. It was not necessarily just the 260, it was making sure we were congruent and moving the whole payments and pay periods and for more than just a 260, and I think this.
Quick question, Dr. Barrera, if this does pass, how soon can we get a meeting and have the workers there so they can understand what we just did? Like that, if they have any questions, they can be answered.
We could bring it up before the end of the week to explain this. This is what, if this goes through, we need to bring everybody in and explain.
So
what
y'all
this-
will explain it to all the employees?
Yes, certainly.
Now, one more thing, this only applies to the 260s that exist now.
Only applies to the 260 within FM&O.
Right.
Which are approximately 117 people.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Dr. Barrera, has Mr. Hitchcock had a chance to discuss this with staff prior to this, or?
He's talked to, and as I have as well, to a couple of the staff members to get a feel for how this would roll. Not just lately, but we've done this over the last couple of budget cycles.
And what was
We-
the consensus to that?
Well, in the very beginning, when we started to talk about it, it was about the 260s and the 10 days, because we had our policy DED. That's what I was mentioning a little bit earlier. In fact, we have a policy on the books before you tonight to expand that from the 5 days back to the 10 days to restore that. And in those talks, we got to thinking about the number of days, and then if we were to go from 260 back to 242, how would that
No,
look?
yeah, I
So-
understand that,
so
but the
yeah.
talks with the employees, how did that go?
with the-
When you said that Mr. Hitchcock was able to speak to some of the employees, what was their feedback?
My last conversation with a couple of guys in the hall, they favored the 242s, going from 260 to the 242. They were okay with that. They liked that idea. I also made clear to them that we were also talking about a monthly pay period to even out the peaks and valleys that were before us, that we have. And you know, ever since I can remember talking about this, it's always been about, well, if they don't work those days, they don't get paid those days. So that makes Christmas tough. That makes spring break tough. So this would also alleviate that, or take that into account as well.
I think the general consensus, just to finish my comments, was that we're all in agreement that going to 242 is good for our staff. I guess the only question is, how soon do we want to implement the biweekly versus the monthly?
Correct.
Is that pretty much is?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Barrera, you started this presentation with a statement that we may or may not approve this tonight. If we don't approve it tonight, we're looking at 6 weeks before we probably get back to it. We could delay the implementation of this as well, right?
The earliest we would be back again, since we've missed the deadline to put it on the agenda for the 25th, would be back in August when we come back. And that would be, but that would then, the budget would also be approved and that kind of thing. We'd have to work that out, but
The pay period had already begun, it's the only problem.
Budget cycle.
No,
So-
the actual pay period. That's what we would have to say if we're gonna do it now, so they can make the adjustment to the pay period in July. Yeah, that's it.
We have the, yeah. We have a motion, or any other comments, questions? I'm going to go back to trustee Salivar. Can you restate your motion again?
I move that with the Board of Trustees accept option A and that all current pay periods move to stay the same bi-weekly period effective July 1st, 2015.
Okay, and I have a second by trustee Swadis. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank
all
you.
very much. It's okay to clap if you want to clap.
Well deserved, by the way.
Just a point of clarification, do we want to bring that in August to give us an update on the transition?
Point of clarification, we'll get with staff before the end of this week, and then we'll see if we can't put something together for August meeting about what it would look like.
What other consensus is? So I mean, I don't want to speak for the board, but for me, whatever the plan is, what's talking to staff.
Okay.
Anybody, any comments to
I
that?
just send somebody from the business office that can help work out, walking
Actually,
it through.
our Director of Payroll, Oscar Trigo, did this schedule, and he did an awesome job with it, and I'm
Yeah.
sure he would be more than happy to go assist.
Connie, thank you for having all this information for us.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Go.
And the first time I saw it, I was, but as you walk through it, it was very simple once you went through it.
And
John,
Dr.
for the
Burr
record,
as
I'm
well.
part of her committee. Just
What's that?
For the record, I'm part of Connie's committee.
But
Well, thank you.
All right.
thank you for helping him do that, Connie.
Sir, you're welcome.
Actually
All
doing
right.
it for him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D,
12D.
12D is discussion, possible approval, McAllen Independent School District Policy DED Local Compensation Benefits Vacation Holidays. Dr. Badel or Dr. Ponce?
I think that becomes a moot point now, if I'm not mistaken.
Because they get the 5 days back anyway, right?
Well, yes and no. We want to make sure that, first of all, I was a little surprised that only this group has a board policy to them. The rest of the staff does not have a board policy when it comes to vacation. And so I thought that, well, maybe if we do this first piece, and that's why when we did the agenda, I said, let's do that first, because that determines the next piece, whether it applies or not. And my first thought, we do away with DED local, but the more I thought about it, we got to guarantee that they get the 10 days paid vacation. That's what this policy addressed, and there was a reason for it. I don't know what the genesis was, but I don't want to get it lost and throw away the baby with the bathwater. So I think we ought to walk it at this point by taking the 10 days, leave it there, see what it looks like, and maybe next summer when we're at this point, say, you know, we really don't need that anymore.
That's a good point.
If you agree, Dr. Ponce,
So that's a good, I mean, because there is that other group, it just applies to the 260, but there's a
Yes.
few other individuals in the 260.
Well, I was hoping that we would not even end up with the 260-day group.
Okay.
There's very few others, like the warehouseman that our purchasing department has, or warehouse department has. There's possibly 7 individuals. I was actually thinking we would not have a 260-day group. It would just be 242 now. I mean, you can leave the policy as it is, it just won't apply to anyone.
Well, yes and no. I mean, that was, and I sent a note out back, and if you saw late Friday, it was, wait a minute, if we change the first piece, which we just did, then we would need to change to make sure that these individuals do get the 10 days paid during 2015, July 1, 2015 month, by changing that second number from 260 to 242. Again, for the purposes of this year, to make sure we acclimate and fairness is still happening, that they do get the 10 days this summer. Then next summer, we won't need it anymore, because everybody will move to 242.
But they're getting 18 days now, as of July 1st.
Well,
That's been approved already.
okay, but right now, the staff is off starting July 1 to the 13th. Are these folks going to be off for the 2 weeks on July 1 to the 13th? See, right now, they wouldn't be. They only get 5 days.
For this year, but going into next year, that's when the change is going to, next fiscal year was when the change was going to take.
And our fiscal year starts when?
July 1. See, I think you gotta have to have the bridge, because otherwise, right now on July 1, this takes effect over the year for time.
You're saying we should give them the 5 days that we're taking away from them. We should give them to them now.
For this year, for
within the next during the time everybody's closed for 2 weeks, they're gonna have to work 5 days under this current board policy.
Well, there is a 242-day calendar, and I didn't bring that, but there is a 242-day calendar that the current 242-day staff works under. So I definitely could see the need for this policy if everything had taken effect July 1st, 2016. But since the 242 part of it, not the monthly part of it, but the workday part of it is taking effect July 1st, 2015, like I say, it doesn't hurt anything, but we're not technically going to have any 260-day employees on the books.
So just I'm a little slower than everybody. So an employee starting July 2nd can take their 5 days that they want now.
Well, there
There are only 5 days right now. Starting July 1st, they'll have 10 days.
They will have 18
Right.
non-work days.
Right,
They
okay.
will have 18 non-work days that they can take. And how facilities maintenance and operation works their calendars, I'm not involved with that day to day. But
So are you suggesting we should leave it alone, or do we?
actually, sir, because we did the 242 now, I'm suggesting we don't need this.
Okay.
But
Yes.
you did say that we do have some employees still under 260 though, right?
We have a few warehousemen. I could not see any mechanics like in the transportation department. So when Dr. Barrera on the previous item mentioned the cost, he was just taking into account FMO costs. But really, this whole category talks about the agenda title, discussion possible approval regarding 260 to 242-day non-exempt auxiliary employees. So it was just in the cost that he was looking at FMO, when he gets specifically talking about FMO, but 7 employees is very little.
The motion covers those 7
Yes,
employees.
yes, sir. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
On this
That's
item
what I-
right here.
Yes, sir.
Then I move that we accept this for the amended change as it's written for, at this time.
I think it does.
That addresses those 7 employees until we decide what we're gonna do with those 7
Well-
employees.
But
Well,
they're under the first motion.
They were already addressed, sir.
Were
In the-
they?
Yes,
So
sir.
you did a good job twice, Sam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's exactly
Never
right.
mind.
That makes up for the
So all
pledge.
242 basically, all 260 are now 242.
And they get
Exactly.
18 days, so we're
Right.
okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're good.
Good job.
All right, never mind.
Okay,
Thank you.
one more time. So everyone now, starting July 1st, there's no longer any 260, we're at 242, and they have 18 days of vacation.
Exactly.
So we
Or
increase vacation time for these employees from 5 days to 18 days.
You increase their non-working days.
Non-working days.
Because it's,
And the same
vacation.
pay, we didn't take away pay, we didn't do anything.
You increased
Exactly.
hourly.
Right, hourly, you're right.
Hourly rates.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody want to add anything to that?
No. Good.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so we had a motion, are you going to rescind that?
I'm rescinding that motion. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. President.
All right, no action taken on item 12D. Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Dr. Barrera, thank you for that. Moving on to item E, discussion and possible approval, elementary campus security upgrades and access control systems. Dr. Barrera.
Yes, sir. Each school has a comprehensive school safety plan as part of its crisis and emergency management plan in the district. That plan includes dual doors and a buzzer system for the entrance of each elementary school. In addition to this crisis plan, what we also put together in bringing this about was we also have the Jacobs assessment that breaks out safety into a couple of 3 categories. One of them was the foyer areas, or what we're going to call the double doors. The second one applies to camera surveillance, and the third one implies fencing for security purposes. Other areas that are identified in that Jacobs assessment involve the mechanical, the electrical, there's a roofing, and then there's a school specialty area, just for your information there. Several schools have previously installed access control security systems. Some were completed with the 2005 bond project. The district also completed several access control security systems in the previous 3 years. The plan this evening is to make all of the elementary campuses complete with one bid package. That would also include the remainder of the elementary campuses that either do not have or have partial access control systems in place. So I put together a chart, it's in your packet there, and I'll pull it up in just a second here, but it speaks to where we are. And the reason we got to looking at this is when we're talking about safety in the entities that we have and the areas that we're looking at, this one appears to be farther along than the camera one or the fencing that would, and we also consider the pricing for it. So it was a topic worthy of bringing forth to talk a little bit about. So I'll go ahead and pull the chart up. Closed it.
Don't you fear, Connie's here.
Green button. Green button.
The green button.
The green button. There we go.
Oh, where? Okay. Sorry. Get rid of this. Okay. What I've got here is the elementary schools and the door system. You got 20 elementaries on the left-hand side. The status, as you can look through there, if it's marked done, that means it has a completed double door system into play. We're looking at a couple, 3 options here. The aluminum frames is what we would care to introduce. Some of it goes for $19,000, some of it at $27,000. The difference there happens to be in the width of the hallways there. We're thinking also that to replace the wood frame doors, we have a couple, 3 or 4 elementary schools with wood frame doors. We're thinking to be consistent and in the way they're set up, that would be wise to replace those with aluminum frames. And you see the pricing there. And then we have a couple of them that are set up with mag locks or magnetic locks, which is, as we, in retrospect, we think about how these are set up. Mag locks lock from the outside, and if everybody were to go and be away from that access point, then they would not be able to get in. If you were on the inside looking and somebody was trying to come in and you say you left that area, and you would be able to get in there. So we're recommending that we convert those. And so for if you take the 3 combined columns, the aluminum frame there, the subtotal of $151,000. You look at to replace the wood frame doors with aluminum, that's at $82,000, and then repair the mag locks or the magnetic locks at $38,000. The grand total here, we're talking about the grand sum, is $271,000. In looking at this is something that we're far enough along. As you can see here, we've got quite a few that are already completed. Then complement with the aluminum frames, then we could go ahead and move forward this and get this project completed or done.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, Dr. Butter, where do we get the $27,000 figure from? Do we have bids that or are we just assuming that that's more or less what it's going to cost?
We have done previous doors. On the left hand, the status, those completed doors, we took that into account, what the price that they charged us. We also added a bit for inflation, and that's how we arrived at the amount.
So they could actually be cheaper than that as well, right?
It could actually be cheaper as well.
Cool. And these will not be done in-house?
No, sir. This is to go ahead and put a big package together and go ahead and consolidate that, leverage our pricing, and also leverage our installation.
Well, how close would we be to completing this project before school started?
Our initial thoughts, since we're so far along, that we could probably get pretty close. I have to say, I think now that once we would put the bid package together, it would run into some school time. It run into a month or 2 into the start of school.
I just have to ask: is there a reason why one school is more expensive than the other? Is the
Yes.
hallway wider? Or?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
3 stories.
The hallways are a little bit narrower. Alvarez is a little bit narrower. Some are a little bit wider.
Okay.
Dr. Barrera, I'm sorry, any other questions, comments?
Well, the comment I was going to make,
Absolutely.
if I may, Mr. President, getting back to, we may move into the school year, as I understood, since these are already prefab, pre-measured, off-site, that when they come in, it's just a matter of install. And we were talking half a day max of rerouting traffic while the install occurs. It's not like a major construction going on.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? So,
That is correct. And I also inquired about, well, what it would have cost if they would be, it's something that you can write into the contract as you specify when they do the installation.
yeah.
So along with the bid price, we could figure out when we want it exactly installed if we needed to put it beyond the school day. a very good exercise, so we could go ahead and do it during the school day, reroute traffic in advance, let everybody know, and then have this done in a day.
What I liked in our conversation at the committee level was, as Dr. Barrera pointed out, is you could specify in the contract that it'd be installed at 5 o'clock. And by the time your traffic's cleared out, they come in the evening and install, no disruption, or the other, it could be Saturday. And you could specify that in the contract, and therefore when they bid on it, it should come in at or around this because you're doing a bulk. So it shouldn't add to its cost in any way and not cause any disruption or hinder traffic at the campus.
Before I ask for a motion, just one quick question, Dr. Badea. As far as our staff, does someone get trained or mirror them so that way if something doesn't work, you know, who's going to follow up on maintenance? Can our staff handle that?
On the maintenance aspects of it, they
Right.
should be able to, yes. Well, we handle a lot of that right now with the ones that we do have completed.
Perfect. Do I have a motion?
Be a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Esparza, second by trustee
Okay, let's get it
Sandivad.
right. It's Suarez.
What did I say?
You said Esparza.
I'm so sorry. You
Same
can
thing.
hit me afterwards.
Same thing.
We have a motion by trustee Suarez, second by trustee Sandivad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank
Thank-
you, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Thank you, Dr. Ponce, for working on this.
Moving on to item 12E, approval of McAllen ISD board policy, second reading. Presenter F, approval of MISD board policy DEC local, second reading. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. The changes are on page 4 of 6 of DEC local. It was just deleting one sentence. And the additions to reimbursement for leave upon retirement, the addition of state and local leave, the addition of state. And that was pretty much still for a maximum of 75 days. But we did go through the first reading 2 weeks ago.
Right. Okay, any questions, comments? This is action,
I move that we approve. It's a second reading, so it's actionable today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
correct.
I move that we approve recommendation DEC local as recommended by administration.
We have a motion by trustee Sandivad. Do I have a second? Trustees?
Second.
Esparza.
Yes.
Esparza.
Trustee Esparza.
Trustee Suarez.
We have we have a motion on the, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Item 12G, approval of McAllen Independent School District June budget amendment for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014 and ending June 30th, 2015. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. This is our final amendment for 14-15. The details are on page 270. We are making some additional adjustments to the budget for our revenues, and that is on page 270. In terms of the expenditures, very few, 21, 41, 51, and other uses, very few changes for June to wrap up the year. On the debt service side, we have some, we are requesting approval of amendment for the revenue side, local and state, not very material amounts, but not on the expenditure.
Okay. Questions, comments by the board?
I move to approve the June budget amendment for fiscal year 2014-2015.
Thank you. We have a motion by trustee Sandivad. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Vela. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item H, approval of McAllen Independent School District budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, ending June 30th, 2016. Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. We've had 5 different budget workshops. Of course, we have had the public hearing this evening. We are required to ask the board to approve the budget before June 30th. We do have some information there listed in terms of the Hidalgo County Tax Assessor Collector has calculated our effective tax rate as $1.1178 and the rollback tax rate of $1.1550. The budget was planned on an average daily attendance of 22,830 children and the different weights associated with them. 96% of the estimated tax levy at a rate of $1.15.5. So we are estimating the tax levy to be collected at least 96%. It is a two-part motion. The first one is approval of the Accelerated Instruction Funds budget, $376,448 for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016. And again, that has to do with our state comp.
So move, Mr. President, if we would, on that first motion.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Sandoval, and we have a second by trustee Suarez. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The second part, sir, the B, is approval of the general fund budget of $224,496,541 and the debt service fund budget of $9,877,150 and the capital projects fund at 0 for a total budget of $234,373,691. And we do have on page 275 and 276, but 275 is the one that is actually related to this B part. It is by function for the board's review and approval.
I move that we approve as recommended.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Sandoval, second by trustee Ball. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you.
Moving on to item I, Board of Trustees report regarding 2015 Summer Leadership Institute. We had several board members attend. Would Emily like to go first?
I'll start it off.
I took away last time.
I'll start it off. The institute that lasted Thursday, Friday, Saturday was a great opportunity for me as a first-time board member to truly get a grasp of what it is that we are charged to do to represent our communities and to ensure the best product that we can have for MISD. In the different seminars that we sat in and the different seminars that were available to everybody, it was just astonishing to see these different opportunities and these different school leaders, and I commend Dr. Ponce and Sam for being a couple of presenters. The way that it was all put together was just incredible, and I appreciate that opportunity to make that trip.
Thank you, trustee Forina. Okay.
Good evening. I did attend a couple of sessions, and there was a couple of them that I attended. One had to do with the trend in professions for graduating high school students, and the marketplace out there is in the medical profession, and I think we're doing a good job with our STEM program and taking the lead with that. I also attended another one that discussed promoting our district, and there's some ideas that I'd like to sit down and talk with Connie and Norma about how we can, do a better job, or just some ideas that getting the word out about the good things that are going on here in our district. But overall, it was a good conference. You get an opportunity to meet with board members from around the state, small districts and large districts, and hear the issues that are relevant in their districts and how they're addressing them and how we're addressing them. So it's a good opportunity to network and compare notes and see what works and what's not working around the state.
Thank you. Trustee Ball?
I'd echo trustee Farina and trustee Esparza's sentiments. Several of the courses that I attended, one in particular was dealing with the changing demographics in Texas. It was two teachers from Cyprus that put on the presentation, and what they talked about was the influx of migrant students, and what they did was they told it from the perspective of the migrant student, and they were relaying real stories. The names had been changed, obviously, to protect the innocent, but the stories of these children coming here, how they got here, it's so much against the perception oftentimes of what we're told is why folks are coming over here. They are coming over here for the opportunity, for the education, and that they are a real asset to our society, to the state of Texas, and the money that they put into our economy it's enormous. So for me, that was the big takeaway from there. I thought they did a fantastic job on that particular presentation.
Thank you, trustee Ball. Trustee Sandoval?
Thank you, Mr. President. It was indeed an honor and a privilege to attend the conference along with my colleagues from McAllen, but also to get to reconnect with those that I had graduated with
and it's part of Leadership TASB, graduating class of 2014, and got to meet some of the current participants of 2015. And as part of Leadership TASB, this is the third time I've been invited to present on a subject matter. And this time, we developed a concept back in Fort Worth last year, Leadership TASB, though, graduating class of 2014, what's called open session. And throughout the day, there's different master trustees that are invited to kind of roundtable with new members and those that have been tenured. There were some participating with 30 years, and we identify topics that we wish to discuss for about 2 hours. And it's literally a roundtable. Everybody shares, small districts, big districts. The 2 sessions I was asked to lead were 75 participants total, and we focused on board involvement in developing a policy, board's involvement in developing a budget, which we just experienced today, facility and asset acquire and maintenance, which something we're very much at the forefront on. Ways of leveraging salaries and benefits to attract and retain quality individuals so you become an employer of choice. The ever-changing demographics of Texas, which are expected to double in the next 30 years to be almost 40 million individuals in the state, of which a significant of those are going to be school-age children, and a large number of that being Latinos. And of course, we're already experiencing many degrees here in South Texas. And it was amazing to see individuals in far corners of small districts, we're talking about less than 5,000, and already they were seeing 30% of their population of Hispanic immigrants moving in, and the changes that it causes and the challenges that they face. And we were able to provide some insight from what we've experienced here. So it was a great opportunity. I looked forward for another opportunity to do so, and again, it was a pleasure to serve and represent McAllen ISD. Thank you.
Thank you. For myself, I attended the President Academy, learned a lot of good things, how to facilitate a meeting, learned from my other fellow board members across the state. One thing that I will say to this board is that I appreciate the level of professionalism, all the questions they brought up. I know we're not going to counter here, so just want to thank you on that. And the other two is for minimizing our expenses. All of us took advantage of the breakfasts and all the meals provided through TASB to save money or to limit our expenses. So I appreciate that and the level of involvement of this board. That's pretty much it for my reports. Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on to item J, approval of Board of Education meeting minutes. Item 1, special board meetings, June 8, 2015, held at 2 p.m. Item 2, workshop meeting, June 8, 2015, held at 3. And item 3, regular board meeting, June 8, 2015, at 5 p.m. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Esparza. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Florina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Items 13, these are items pulled from briefing meeting agenda. We already took action in the last items. There are actions 13A, B, C, D, F, G, and H in our board packets. Questions, comments by anybody by the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 14, schedule future meetings. Our next board meeting is this Thursday, June 15th. It's a special board meeting here being held at the administration office. Following meeting will be on August 10th, the regular board meeting. August 24th, the regular board meeting at 5 p.m. And August 24th, the special board meeting at 6:15. Just note that the administration office will be closed in the first weeks of July. And consequently, we don't have any board meetings scheduled this time. We do want to wish everyone, the administration, Dr. Ponce, your staff, good vacation, a good time to get away for a little while to recharge the batteries. Wish all y'all, safe travelings.
Thank you.
Item 15 is closed session. This time we are not going to go into closed session. Item 16 is open session. So at 8:06, Trustee Florina, we're going to adjourn this meeting.